So let's talk a little bit about how MuleSoft and APIPro can work together for better APIs. APIPro is designed to be a supplemental tool for MuleSoft, so that way that engineers who wanted to build better APIs could have the ability to create proper APIs that could quickly and easily be imported into the MuleSoft product for implementation. APIPro is a design tool set to provide best practices, governance, and the ability to initiate a test-driven development approach for implementation of MuleSoft. So let's take a look at the tool. So at the landing page, users have the ability to sign up. It's an ancillary tool to MuleSoft, so it's not directly associated with it, but being that we are partners, we want to make sure that we are supporting MuleSoft. So if your user is logged in, you'll see that it brings you to a project page. So as you can see, with the RAML-based slant that we have, you have the ability for libraries, overlays, and extensions. In addition, Enterprise has the ability to provide access to APIs that people within your team have been building. So if you notice here, the bottom three, they're locked. So this gives the ability for concurrent modification without overriding each other's work. So if these users step outside of their project, then I'll have the ability to begin editing those. In addition, we have the ability to import. So we can import an API, a library, extension, or overlay. And then whenever we're ready to import, we can select the type, RAML, Swagger, or API Blueprint. That means that if the user is currently a Apigee customer or an API Blueprint customer for Apiary, they can quickly just select their information, export it out, and be able to import it into APIPro with ease. Same if they're an Apigee customer, be able to select the information out of Apigee, download the spec, and be able to import it quickly and easily into APIPro. Once those are imported, then we have the ability to go in and do modifications within the product. So we can add additional documentation, we can create traits, resource types, security schemes, annotation types. We even have a schema and data type builder. As you notice that all of the nomenclature associated with this is RAML 1.0 slanted. Then you define your resources and your examples. So let's take a step into one of these tools real quick. So for example, the data types. So if I want to go in and I want to look at the entitlement schema, I click it. We have a constructor here that gives the ability to provide information associated with each one of the data elements. But that also quickly converts it into a JSON schema format. The reason that we provide this capability is that some consumers have tools that utilize a JSON schema element and builds out the Java components needed for their clients to be able to consume. The constructor gives us a nice clean way for us to build out the actual data types if they want to manually build those as well. Our examples, relatively straightforward. The ability to see a live and living example of the data that you're providing. And then our resources, the ability to implement the different methods that are associated. Turn them on and off, the ones that you want to support for every resource. Identify the query parameters, the headers, the responses. And if you go into the response, again, the headers associated with those response, any annotations, and the body. So once the users have had a chance to create their projects, then they have the ability to apply governance. So within our enterprise, we have the ability to manage the users, specify who are the governance creators, then also look at projects. So we can assign and unassign and even delete different APIs that have been created. Once this has been set up, now our governance piece comes into play. So what this does is gives us the ability to design governance for the design aspect of it. The last thing that we want is to have developers that are converting from one tool to another or doing a greenfield implementation of APIs, and each and every one of the developers having a different strategy for implementation, whether they're using underscores or dashes or camel case. All of this can be controlled. In addition, you can also control the best practices implementation by making sure that certain status codes are defined for each method, making sure that examples are provided, etc. So here's some examples of rules that can be implemented. And then currently we provide all lowercase standard and an empty rule set as out-of-the-box components. As you can see, it provides us with information of how many of these have actually ran validation. You can take a look at it. You can actually clone it. Let's say you want to take standard and you want to make some modifications. You can clone this and then apply your own governance rules associated with it. Or you can create one from scratch. And as you can see, to give you some ideas, I can go into the methods and say, okay, for a get operation, I want to make sure that it can only return a 200, a 204 if necessary, or even permanently moved, or bad request, not found, unauthorized, right? So we have all the status codes in here, so that way that they can be leveraged for best practices. So the governance creators have the ability to see this menu and be able to create governance rules for their enterprise that gets applied across all of their enterprise. If we go back to our enterprise menu, our users have the ability, export without validation. So these users have the ability to export without validating. One of the components that we can do is we can uncheck this box for all of our users, and now they cannot export their contracts out until they actually pass a validation rule set that's been invoked. This helps to give the enterprise owners, calmness of mind to say, okay, I can rest assured that all of the APIs that are being created within APIPro are going to follow industry best practices or my enterprise's best practices for implementation. So let's go into the projects. So as you can see, we have, this one is mine. I have it locked, so I can go ahead and unlock it. Now that we've covered how governance rules are created, let's go in and validate that one of our APIs is compliant. So we select our governance icon, which will bring up our center for validation. We can either search for a governance rule set, or we can select one of the ones that have been updated. So let's go with the standard rule set. Let's see if our API is compliant. So I click it. Oh, I have a 95.45 success rate. It looks like I'm missing a 404 code on one of my get operations. So then what I can quickly do is go back into the API and be able to say, okay, let's check it out. My resources, I have a get operation. And so let's go ahead and click here, get our get operation. And as you can see, the response here is missing, the 404. So I can quickly add it if I need to. 404 not found. Go ahead and add it. So now the 404 is not found. Now if I go back to my validation, save and leave. Definitely want to save it. Go in and let's go ahead and try validate again. Run our validation engine. And as you can see, now we have 100% success rate. That's how APIPro provides value. Now that we have 100% compliant, now it's time for us to go ahead and connect this. So we have the ability, as you can see here, to push this API directly to API Manager in MuleSoft. We can also download it in any of the other specs or formats. For example, if I want to have RAML 1.0, click it and download. We also give this very convenient way to preview your APIs. Click an API. Here's our RAML 0.8 spec. Here's our RAML 1.0 spec. Here's our Swagger spec. So it quickly and efficiently converts between all the formats as we go through it. One other thing that makes APIPro very special is that it gives us the ability to generate a test harness. As this loads up, we have the ability to create a single test case for each resource, one for each request of each method. We can include the security components within it, within our test suite. We can also have a load test annotations put in. Currently, we're supporting SoapUI Test Suite. The next one that we'll be adding here to the right will be Postman Collections. We also support JUnit tests, so that way that we can export this into JUnit for those who would prefer to use JUnit during MuleSoft implementation. We also have the ability to go ahead and switch this over to MUnit test case. So this one's already been exported. I'll show you real quick what it looks like. As you can see, here is the MuleSoft MUnit implementation for those tests. So it quickly and efficiently puts those in with our status codes of any of the expected based on the contract that you define. Now the users can quickly go into their projects, drop this XML file in, and have the ability to start doing test-driven development in their MuleSoft Studio without any problems or issues. As we continue to move more into integration of this with MuleSoft, we hope to have various pieces that will utilize the MuleSoft APIs to help for on-premise implementation of APIs, if there's proxies, things of this nature, things that are out of the box easy. But while we can also ensure that the developers are following enterprise governance capabilities, have the ability to quickly pull APIs out of other products and be able to inject those into the MuleSoft API Manager. So that way that as APIs are being designed, we're continuing to support the implementation of MuleSoft. I hope this answers any of the questions about APIPro that any of you have. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, give me a call. More than willing to have those discussions. I look forward to working with you, and hopefully we can get APIPro out there to really start helping with best practices and implementation during design time to support better implementation within MuleSoft.